Week 4 of the second season of the SPL is finally here, and Playmore is taking on the Thunderclap Titans, a team we've never faced before, but the coach, the Uzi Gunner, is very familiar. We went against his old team, the Bullet Punch Club, in the 10th season of the GBA, and not only did he defeat us, but he went 9-1 in that regular season with only one loss. A loss to the Chicago Dragapults, whose best Pokemon was Dragapult. And this season, that man with the #1 overall pick picked Dragapult, and the rest of that squad looks pretty incredible. A lot of people say he has one of the best drafts, if not the best draft, maybe over ours. I know he's a fantastic coach. This is an exciting matchup. This is a huge matchup. And just where the season is, this may be a must-win matchup for us. It's not going to be easy, but we don't want to end this battle 1-3, staring at the back half of the schedule. But before we get into that, the elephant in the room, I'm alone. Tyler's not here. Unfortunately, Tyler's sick. Let's see what Ben's got planned. I'm excited to see what team he's bringing.
First, making their debut, we have Vaporeon. This is going to be a very interesting set for their debut, as it is not traditional in any way, shape, or form. We have Choice Scarf Vaporeon with Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, Flip Turn, and Wish with some very wacky EVs. This is purely for bait for Chi-Yu. Choice Specs Modest Chi-Yu is a monster. We have absolutely zero switch-ins to it. We go into Vape. They will see it as like just a normal defensive vape. Oh, he thought he could take this, but he took like 60% thanks to our special defense investment, and then I outspeed with just like one extra EV, click Hydro Pump, land, pick up the kill, and then Chi-Yu is gone, and that is great. Next, our final Pokemon to make it onto the field, we have Iron Jugulus. We are rocking a very heavy-hitting Choice Spec set this week with Dark Pulse, Hurricane, Earth Power, and U-Turn. Stabs and Dark Pulse and Hurricane are just amazing. If we can hit our Hurricanes, they'll do amazing for us easily. And then Earth Power is just good, like super effective coverage for like Iron Treads and Chi-Yu. We finally have an offensive Garchomp this week, holding the Yachi Berry with Earthquake, Scale Shot, Poison Jab, and Spikes. We still do have Spikes just in case we can get a few up, maybe stack them, but obviously they do have the good Rapid Spinner and Iron Treads, which is why we're holding the Yachi Berry, so we can eat an Ice Spinner from Iron Treads, or potentially some of their other ice coverage, and get off an Earthquake to hopefully KO the Iron Treads in return. And lastly, Poison Jab is just really helpful for the likes of Shaman, Azumarill, and potentially Terra Fairy Rotom Fan, which is obviously immune to Garchomp stabs, as Levitate for Earthquake, and it would then be Fairy type to avoid the Dragon type moves. Next, we have one of our Terra Captains returning for the 4th week in a row. We have Glastrier with Terra Fairy this week, and the Assault Vest. This is rocking Icicle Crash, Terra Blast, Close Combat, and Facade to just click buttons versus our opponent's team. It does so well and is very big in this game, especially for the likes of potentially Chi-Yu and obviously Choice Specs Dragapult. Facade is very nice just in case we get burned from the likes of Rotom Fan or Dragapult with Will-O-Wisp. I think it is very likely this matchup, so we'd just be able to get off more chip than we normally would after we get burned. Next is our team's leader and probably #1 win condition this week in Iron Valiant. We have the Booster Energy with Calm Mind and Encore. Encore to help us really just lock them into a move to get free setup. And then a Calm Mind, of course, boosting our special attacks while also boosting our special defense, more likely to eat from all of their opposing special attackers. And lastly, we have Ceruledge. I have high hopes for this Pokemon this week because we are rocking both Weak Armor and Salac Berry with Endure. Now, why are you rocking both? Weak Armor only procs if I get hit by a physical attack, and they do have a lot of potential special attackers in this game. So I really wanted to have Endure just to make sure that I could get that Salac Berry +1 speed boost just in case versus any of their Pokemon, and then I can outspeed the likes of Dragapult, Iron Treads, all that good stuff. Alright, that's the squad. Let's see if we can bounce back in week 4 against Uzi.
Thank you, Coach Ben. As always, it's fantastic to hear what Pokemon he's bringing and why he's bringing them. This week especially, it's a super exciting offensive team. The battle's about to begin. Our coach is nowhere to be found, but I'm sure everything's okay. A Alolan Persian? That's not what I expected to see. And no Chi-Yu! UNC Blanket! Frog Bucket Hat! I don't know what's going on over there with Ben, and we will talk about that UNC Blanket, but first, a Alolan Persian. No one expected to see that, apparently, except for the opposing coach, as Ben wrote in his notes, Alolan Persian is dog crap. so I didn't expect to see that at all. I did expect to see Chi-Yu, as we brought Vaporeon specifically for Chi-Yu. Vaporeon, in its debut performance, to specifically eat a fiery fish. I don't know who Vaporeon's going to consume now on the other team. Actually, I think nothing. Hopefully it can still be good against Iron Treads or the Dragapult, but the Pokemon we expected least, replacing the Pokemon we were most worried about, is really wild. I don't know if the opponent has blundered. I don't know if we were too worried about a little fishy. We'll have to see. But Ben is leading off with Glastrier. It's what he said he was going to do in his notes. I want him to stick to his game plan early on, and I want him to go back in time and not taunt me with the UNC blanket. It hurt my feelings. He went to UNC, he's a UNC fan. My uncle went to Duke, I grew up a Duke fan. UNC on the basketball court beat Duke. Sure, but this is Pokemon time. It's play more time. This is a huge battle. We gotta win. We gotta go 1-0 on the Pokemon field. But he's also, man, come on, he's got that outfit on. Look at this, man, he looks great. The OG PM7 merch, it looks incredible. You can't buy that anymore, but what you can buy, some Play More merch. Play-more.store, the official sponsor of Play More. Go pick up something to support the team. You can get a plushie, get a shirt. We got new things on the way in the future, but for now, Rotom fan to lead. And that normally would be a wonderful thing to see. We got Assault Vest, we can tank any hit we want over here. And if we went for Icicle Crash, that thing would be out of here. But this is the Terra Captain. And the fact that Ben is looking at Terra Blast lets me know he's expecting a Terra on the other side. That is the Terra on the other side. What are we gonna see? We were expecting Fairy. What is this? That's Steel, isn't it? That is Steel. That's not okay. That is okay. Doesn't matter. One turn decides very little, okay? We stuck to the plan this time. It's gone awry early, but we just got to see what the opponent is going to go for. I have an idea that it could be Will-O-Wisp, which is not ideal. Our Terra Blast is going to do 2 damage maybe, but we do have Facade on this Glastrier, so it's not useless. The issue is I have to say it's not useless. Obviously, this was probably the worst start that we could have had against the opponents. It's really tough with Terras to figure out exactly what the opponent is going to be. Terra Steel, Rotom fan, is a really not fun one for us to deal with. Now, I'm not really worried about this thing like offensively taking our team down, but just being able to spread a Will-O-Wisp around is not going to be great. It can also go for Volt Switch to potentially predict a switch at this point and gain some momentum. Could just go for another Will-O-Wisp. It is a tough thing to figure out what to do. Now, going for close combat here may not be the worst thing in the world. Obviously, it would put us in a spot where we're pretty much sacrificing Glastrier, but could be some really good damage on this Rotom fan. Not super excited to have this thing in general with that Steel typing, so expecting this thing to stay in. I think there's a good chance it does stay in. Volt Switch, okay. That was the other option. It did -5 damage, so this might work out better. We're not going to get a big hit off on the Rotom, but I mean, Glastrier will be able to stick around in the future, and it's a pretty good hit against Iron Treads. Look at that. All right. It started bad, but now I'm feeling pretty good. Now, obviously, we're a little bit worried about the Steel move here. So I would expect Ben to want to go into Vaporeon. Vaporeon does not have any little fishies to deal with. So this could be the perfect point to bring in Vaporeon. Either you stay in, surprise, the opponent outspeeding with a Choice Scarf, go for the Hydro Pump, or we could just flip turn out of there. But it's looking like the offensive Garchomp is the move. Now, I don't really love this play, if I'm going to be quite honest, because of the Rotom fan. With that Steel Terra, I feel like that thing can come in on Garchomp every single time, and it's not really worried. I feel like Vaporeon's not super useful in this battle overall, so I'm just a little worried that the Rotom fan switch is little too obvious here, but we could be able to get our own spikes in. We could maybe make a double switch. We could go for just the safe play overall. It is an interesting spot for us to be in, Ben, absolutely, he's got the battling chops to make the right prediction. And now we see the potential Vaporeon switch here. I do like the idea of forcing a double. Obviously, my thought was to immediately go into Vaporeon, but I feel like if you can double, get the right Pokemon in, we can gain a little momentum here. I assume the coach felt pretty confident. Hey, there's going to be Stealth Rocks. I can switch something in safely. That all worked out. It's just this was a 2-turn play. The first turn, pretty simple. Gotta nail this prediction. Otherwise, it's just going to be a lot of unnecessary damage on the Vaporeon. So we will see. We got Vaporeon in. And there it is. Okay. Hey. Ben had a plan all along. The double switch. And Alolan Persian is now in, which is the biggest wild card our opponent could have possibly brought. Now, Ben had some pretty big words of Alolan Persian. Dog crap. That is a cat over there that's been stung by many bees. On the outside of its face, for some reason, there's bees on the inside. It's just... It is not swallowed bees, it's chilling in the cheeks, it's all puffed up. And there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of insults thrown there. Persian's gone through a lot. I'm a little worried about that. But I really love this, as this does not reveal anything. And I mean anything about our Vaporeon set. The fact that this thing outsped, Uzi's gonna be none the wiser of the tricks up our sleeves. And now, we can get a little momentum here and bring in the proper Pokemon. Obviously, turn 1 was not fantastic, but I really like the position that we're about to find ourselves in. You know, at some point, someone's gonna have to break through the opponent's team, and this should give us the first opportunity to truly do that as the old Rotom is brought back in. Very obviously bulky. I'd love to see this thing go down. The question now, though, is what can we bring in? The Stealth Rocks are absolutely going to be a huge issue for us. Something I really failed to note early on. 3 of our Pokemon really hate those Stealth Rocks, and that's a bit of a bummer. Our opponent definitely has brought a decently bulky team. You know, not having Chi-Yu and bringing Alolan Persian instead. That's a very bulky Pokemon. A fast Pokemon, but a very bulky Pokemon, especially with that Fur Coat ability. So whatever we bring in here, we got to be pretty confident, as I think the 3 Pokemon he's looking at are going to take that Stealth Rock damage, and that's not ideal. Whatever it is, really needs to punch a hole in the team. Or, as we're waiting for the right opportunity, you can bring the horse, which is not super useful to us. So you know what? I think that's a completely fine play. This guy is not really going to be doing a ton for us. Maybe you can predict a switch, go for the Facade, catch something off guard, get a lot of damage off it. You know, maybe you can just go for close combat again, get some good damage on the Rotom Fan. Okay, he does go for the Facade, predicting the switch. There's the Volt Switch. All right, there we go. You know, I'm thinking something else. Ben's thinking potentially the much more correct and optimal play. I love that so far. I talked Vaporeon earlier. He double switched. It was great. This time, the Facade into the Deoxys defense. This should do some pretty good damage. I'm excited to see it. Come on. There we go. That is what you love to see. There's 3 really bulky Pokemon on the other side. It's always nice to get some good damage in on this thing. I do not know what the next play is. I think we're forced to go for another Facade. I'm really worried the opponent's about to go for Spikes. Our team is not excited, okay, about the hazards. And here's the switch into Iron Jugulus. Now, this is the first time we've seen this thing on the field this season, which is exciting, but we only have so many switches into this. And there's a Recover. Okay, fantastic play by Ben. Yeah, it's very interesting. Being the only person up here commentating, I feel like I'm throwing out my own thoughts. Ben's doing something completely different. And the best part is I think he's been right every single time. In this spot, it's really scary to be Ben. I've been in this spot before. You're losing that Hazards War, and every switch is so important. If he had made the wrong play with that Iron Jugulus, it puts us in a really tough spot, as Iron Jugulus is going to be so important to break through this team. The really huge issue, though, is with how defensive our opponent's team is. When they bring in a Azumarill on this play, most likely... Oh! We could be in a bad spot, but they don't do that. That's incredible. The huge damage into Deoxys defense. And you know what? We may not have technically struck first with a big first hit. I think Will-O-Wisp, unfortunately, and maybe Stealth Rocks with a 1-2 punch that's put us on the back foot. But getting that damage on Deoxys instead of the hard pivot into the Azumarill is fantastic. Obviously, we're going to have to switch at this point. But as long as we do not allow Deoxys defense to come in and get a free recover off, we should be able to get rid of that thing. Get rid of one of the defensive Pokemon. It's a little bit easier to clean up at the end with the 2 sweepers. So I really love that. I love bringing in Vaporeon here. Let's see if we can get a little momentum as this Azumarill just going to go straight for the play rough and almost take us out. That really, well, Spin Zone. There's probably a role where we just lose the Vaporeon. The fact that we still have it allows us to do something, whether it's a flip turn, a wish, saving this Pokemon just to sacrifice it later for momentum. We're still in a decent spot unless they go into Deoxys defense here. Okay, still in a decent spot. They bring in the Dragapult. Very interesting, as we're going to get a wish off, and we can now switch into something somewhat safely. We got to make a good prediction here. There's obviously a chance the Dragapult is something like Choice Specs and just takes something out. But it looks like we're looking at Kuzan, which if we bring in the old Glastrier, we could tank a hit. I don't know. I do worry we could lose the wish. We just lose this Pokemon, and then all of a sudden, you know, we're down this thing and we're down the Vaporeon. I'd like to either just lose the Vaporeon or, you know, bring in something that could hopefully pressure the Dragapult. Our opponent does have the ability to soak up a lot of hits and just U-turn around and really get into a good position. The hard switch into A, which is the Rotom fan. Okay. A lot going on here, but with Stealth Rocks up and everything that's happening on our side, we cannot win a battle of switching. We just simply can't do it. With how defensive the opponent's team is, we have to break through at some point. What really worries me about Glastrier being in right now is how slow this Pokemon is. Deoxys defense can be brought in, outspeed, go for the recover, and all of a sudden, I mean, we've really not made any progress. I think pressuring that Pokemon is so important, as we really got to break through at some point. So hopefully our Pokemon can clean up late game. Ben trying to keep that pressure on, going for Facade. Really, really like that, as nothing on the opponent's team really wants to switch into a Facade. I mean, Iron Treads, I'm sure, can take it decently easily, but the rest of the Pokemon, well, no. I'm being a little bit of a dingus. There is a dragon made of ghost, but instead it is the Alolan Persian. Now, that's a pretty decent amount of damage for something with Fur Coat. I am completely fine seeing that. And Ben's got a bit of a decision here. Can't win the switch war. Can't just be switching all around as the opponent's doing that very easily. But you do have one turn where you can sacrifice Vaporeon, see what the opponent is going to do, and then, you know, make a decision accordingly. I do like this, but Ben has to make the perfect play here. He has to. Parting shot. The opponent has a really frustrating strategy, and what really bothers me is how simple the strategy is. Set up Stealth Rocks, switch around. We can't win that game. We cannot win that game. We have to break through at some point. We have to. There's no other world, you know, where we could win this battle unless we break through. The scary part is we can't bring in Iron Valiant right now because we need something that can outspeed the Dragapult, and that's where Dragapult shines and shows how unbelievably good it truly is with that incredible speed stat. We're bringing in the Iron Jugulus. This thing can only stick around for so long. We really need this to do a lot of damage. We need this to connect. We need this to connect. Come on. Come on. There we go. That's what we freaking needed. That's some huge damage. The opponent brought an unbelievably hanky team. But with that, we can go for another Hurricane. No worries. If we hit this, we're in a really good spot. Ben had one chance to really break through the opponent's team, get rid of that Vaporeon before we started to just get whittled down in a kind of a boring, just hurtful fashion. But now, with that Hurricane, we're in a solid spot. The opponent, I don't know exactly what they're going to do. They have a few things they could switch into, but I think a Choice Specs Hurricane from Iron Jugulus is going to do a lot of damage as long as it hits. And if they keep switching around and all of a sudden they have 3-4 Pokemon at like half health, that's not ideal. Ben is in a spot where one of his 2 sweepers could just sweep at that point, or maybe the combination of both cleans up. So I really love that play. Might be one of the best plays of the entire season so far. Look at that incredible frog bucket hat. What a man. All right, what do we got? Don Schnack. Deoxys defense, and it's gone. We ain't missing twice. We ain't missing twice. We ain't missing twice. Get that thing out of here. And now we're on the board. Things get a little bit easier. One of those defensive monsters that can just teleport out, U-turn out, parting shot out, volt switch out is out of here. And hopefully it makes it a bit easier for us to predict. And that was something we were worried about healing up. Now, this is where things get really, really, really worrisome. I do think Iron Jugulus has done everything that it needs to do. We could sacrifice it here, but I assume the better play is to just go into Glastrier and accept its fate at this point. Now, we don't know what Dragapult wants to do. Maybe we're scared of some sort of setup. But I feel like Glastrier is pretty safe here. Even burned, Icicle Crash can probably still do a decent amount of damage. But if you are worried about some sort of setup set or something that could break the game wide open here, I don't hate sacrificing Iron Jugulus. It's done everything it needed to do. I would like to get one more big specs hit in, so I really do like this play. But playing around Dragapult is really, really scary. You don't know what it's going to do. You don't know what move it's going to go for next. So this is a big one. No, it's just more switching. All right, there's just more switching. Every single Pokemon on the opponent's team can switch around, which I absolutely love. I have always been a huge fan of Volt Turn. They've added a lot of moves as Pokemon's gone on to allow you to flip turn around even. I think that works out perfectly. I'm not really too worried about Iron Treads. The only question would be, does this thing get spikes? So many Pokemon got spikes this generation. It's something that I've struggled to keep up with. It doesn't look like it does. So, I mean, I think we're good just to sacrifice off Glastrier, get a hit off, and move on with our life. I'm really, really not that worried about it. You know, I mean, the opponent could just switch into Dragapult maybe, predicting the close combat. Like, but I don't know why would they want to do that. Yeah, I think we just lose. We lose the horse here. That's completely fine. Tiny chance we somehow live, get a big hit off with close combat. Not a super exciting play. It's a straightforward play that has to happen. Our team is on a bit of a timer with the Stealth Rocks. And we just got to get enough damage so when we go to sweep, we can actually do the thing. So, there's the Earthquake. We might live. We don't live. Okay, well, that's fine. Glastrier goes down, and it wasn't ideal for that Will-O-Wisp turn 1, but it still was able to do a decent amount despite that. Facade, really great tech this week. And now, Ben's got a really big decision here. A really, really, really big decision. Garchomp. Okay. Might not be time to try to sweep, which I completely understand and respect. What I just do not understand is what we do against Rotom Fan. I may be missing something, but this feels like the easiest switch in the world to Rotom Fan. I feel like this may be hoping the opponent overthinks and messes up this turn, which is always a possibility. You know, when you play these high-level opponents, the mind games, if I'm predicting you to predict me, to predict you, to predict me, at some point, someone's going to overthink something. So, go for the safe play, hope the opponent overthinks it, and all of a sudden, we can get a kill from it! There we go, Ben! There we go! Wow! This man is, wow, he is absolutely killing it. Every single, man, Man, every single prediction is going his way at this point, and there was the easy switch from the beginning with the Rotom fan. Maybe Uzi was expecting something that we just don't have on this set. We have no ability to touch this Pokemon with Garchomp. Now we can get our spikes up. I'm feeling really, really good about a potential late game sweep at this point. And wait, oh my gosh, we skillfully avoid the Will-O-Wisp. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not gonna let myself get too excited. Dragapult is still one of the scariest Pokemon in the format. Can still set up a Dragon Dance and outspeed anything no matter what we do. That would be really scary. But at this point, if we can just bring in, I think if we can bring in one of our sweepers decently safely at this point, we're in a fantastic spot. Just a fantastic spot. I really, really, really like this. I really do. We just need to safely bring in one of the two and we're good to go. But it seems like our opponent is completely fine to just let the Garchomp go down. Now, we can't do anything to this Pokemon, which does worry me a little bit. You know, is it worth switching? You can't really switch into Iron Jugulus. You can't be taking a Volt Switch. I don't think you really want to switch into Zoro or Ceruledge there, so... Even as Ceruledge, I don't know. Ghosty man with the sword. Cool sword man. Swoosh. That's how the sword goes. Just trying to make the prediction into the, the Dragapult. It didn't work out. That's completely fine. We just got to let this thing go down. Or get some speed boosts. I mean, you know, outspeed everything on the team. Pretend like we're not burned. We have fire coverage. We take the Rotom fan out. That would be fantastic. In reality, I just got to fill in the dead air as we're letting the Garchomp go down in this fashion. Really hoping that we can clean up with the two sweepers. Now, the two scary Pokemon left with this Rotom fan that's hard for us to really do much damage to, and the Dragapult, they don't get hit by spikes. So we got to be able to break through those two and make sure, well, we need to be able to break through this thing and outspeed Dragapult. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to do both of those things, but we have to make sure we can. We got to make sure we can bring those in safely. I really, really like that we're able to even get a little bit of chip off on this thing. Let the Garchomp go down and bring in the right Pokemon. We're going to see another Air Slash here. And the question is really just going to turn into, what are we going to see? Is it going to be Iron Valiant or is it going to be my sword guy? I'm very in my own head. I'm worried I don't know its name. I gotta look it up, man. I think I'm so in my own head. It is Ceruledge. See, this is the problem. I need my man Tyler. I need him to say, you know what? Pat on the back, you're doing a good job, buddy. That is the right name. And you know who else is doing a good job? That handsome man over there in the frog hat. This is what he was working towards. The battle was in a horrible spot early on. Those Stealth Rocks are switching around. It was really not looking great. Ben made some incredible moves to put himself in this position. This is the only chance I think he really ever had after Stealth Rocks went out to win this battle. Maybe after the Will-O-Wisp. This is what we've been working towards. We got this Pokemon ready to go. It's game time. It's absolutely game time. I'm excited to see this thing in action. Bitterblade could make a lot of sense. He didn't expect to be able to go to first Swords Dance. This could be one of those moments, but I do like just getting that damage off. There's no world where the Rotom's going to be able to take us out. We do have Endure to get that Salic Berry. A lot of cool things with this Pokemon. But we could also just see a switch at this point, a hard switch. No worry, just go for the Bitterblade. Go for the safe play. Get some health back. Let's do the thing. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I don't know with the speeds if this is going to outspeed us. I don't know, obviously, the investment of Rotom. Uzi's scared he can't outspeed. That's a hard switch. That's why I was kind of hoping for the Swords Dance, but that's fine. That's completely fine. We're going to get some damage off on this thing. That's going to take a ton of damage from the spikes. And now, Ben's got a pretty big decision. No, he doesn't, because he just took that thing out. There we go, Ben. There we go. Okay. We got Endure on this set. I don't even know what Uzi wants to bring in to deal with this. And this is just one of two sweepers. Okay. This has been impressive so far. But here's a Alolan Persian, the Pokemon that was not expected to be brought. Iron Valiant normally outspeeds Alolan Persian. Our Iron Valiant is not speed crep to outspeed Alolan Persian. We were not expecting this Pokemon in any way, shape, or form. This thing shuts down Ceruledge. It outspeeds without the booster energy. Iron Valiant. That's fine, though. When we bring Iron Valiant in, we just need that thing to hopefully clean up. This is a scary spot. Endure is definitely the strategy here to make sure we can actually outspeed the next turn. We'll live a hit, outspeed, get a hit off on this. But I don't think we're going to be able to get too much damage off. You know, obviously hindsight. I would have really liked the... Would really like the Swords Dance, but at this point, with the Thunder Wave, we're not going to be outspeeding anything. We just got to get some damage off. Okay, yeah. Now, Alolan Persian was a nightmare bring. Alolan Persian was an absolute nightmare bring. I don't think there was much Ben could have done there. Really hard to predict around that. You bring Indoor for a situation like this. You got to go for Indoor in that spot. Thunder Wave, just a smart bring. Good play. Good all around. And it all comes down to this. We got to be able to outspeed with that booster energy, which I'm very confident we do. We kill with the Moonblast, ideally, and then we clean up the team. It's wild that, you know, like Chi-Yu would have been a little bit less scary in this moment, but actually, I don't even know if that's true. That thing was also terrifying, but it's fine. This is a really big decision. I don't think we can bring in Iron Jugulus. Maybe we can? I mean, the Alolan Persian is just going to have Foul Play for an attacking move. If we're not really worried it could take us out with anything else, we can do this. But with the Parting Shot, it's definitely going to weaken us here. Oh, okay. Oof. Okay. All right. I'm getting so nervous. All right. I see what he's doing. I got a little fluster-bustered. Ben is trying to force this thing out. Force it to take more spikes damage. He brings in Iron Jugulus. Goes for the U-turn. Even if he's wrong, it doesn't really matter. Alolan Persian is going to outspeed. We can bring in the Iron Valiant and hopefully sweep there. Our only chance there, or only chance here, is to sweep with Iron Valiant. So I actually really like this play. If he can actually pull this off, this could be a game-winning move. Could be a game-saving move, or a season-saving move. The Foul Play, which is what I was worried about. The U-turn. Okay. Okay. Iron Jugulus is going to die on switch-ins. So we realistically only have one Pokemon left. We have to have this booster energy to outspeed the Dragapult. So we're either winning 2-0 or we're losing. There's no other world. I don't think there's a world where we could win 1-0. At this point, we got to be able to take this thing out with the Moonblast. I don't have the calc in front of me. I feel like we should be able to. It's the only thing that makes sense. It is the only thing that makes sense here. And then we gotta hope we take out that Dragapult. We gotta hope we take out that Dragapult. It's all come down to this. They got Stealth Rocks up, we got Spikes up. First overall pick in the draft, Dragapult, versus our first overall pick. Two of the best drafts this season, according to a lot of people. Comes down to the first two picks from both teams. Okay. There's the Rotom. I think we've got to be fine with that. We got the Aura Sphere. Can we take it out from this point? I think we can. Super effective because of the Terra. It's gonna come down to this, folks. It's gonna come down to this. Did we get enough chip on this Pokemon? Did we get enough chip? Come on. Come on. Come on, Zoro. Come on. No! Wait. No!
If he's Choice Scarf, I lose because of that.
I hate a lot of emotions, a lot of things. Incredible prep on the opponent's side to have that Choppleberry ready to go. And okay, wait. Why did I think this thing would levitate? Why? I just... Ugh. Is it Scarf? Is it... To break that down a little farther, that's one of my favorite things I've seen in draft because it's exactly something I would have done myself. A strategy built on getting your stealth rocks up, which are really helpful against our team. A bulky team where you can volt switch around, U-turn around, parting shot around, teleport around, just go around over and over again, soaking up hits, whittling down the opponent's team enough, just knowing that you can clean up with Dragapult at the end in a lot of situations. As long as your team does what it needs to do, this thing will outspeed anything we can bring that is not Choice Scarf, Hisuian Electrode, which this thing would never be worried about. Ben played unbelievably well in this battle. There were so many incredible turns that Ben had, so many incredible predictions that really got himself back into this. The game plan our opponent brought was just truly masterful against our team. I mean, it was perfect. And despite all of that, the only way Ben loses this battle is Choice Scarf Dragapult. Something you can't really prep. You can't prep for it. You cannot go into a battle expecting Dragapult to be Choice Scarf. You're gonna lose every single one of those battles, as there's so many other incredible sets it can run. You know, you got to be wary that it's a possibility, but what can you even do about it? It's difficult to sit here 1-3. I played a lot of seasons of Draft League, and I've been in this spot before. It's tough. It's tough when the expectations are really high. I remember one of my worst seasons. I drafted the team that a lot of people said was the best. And it was one of my only seasons I didn't make playoffs. It wasn't fun, the things that other coaches said about me, other fans said about me, things that our fans said about me. I played horribly that season myself. And, it was a really tough one. It can drain you mentally. But I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you right now, this is one of the better battles I've watched Ben play. And he's one of the better Draft League battlers I've ever seen. He's an incredible coach. This was an incredible opponent. It's really hard to beat Uzi. We almost did. You got to tip the cap. But we got 4 battles left this season. And I have all the faith in the world that we can turn it around. If we win those final 4 battles, if we are 5-3, we're going to make the playoffs. If we go 4-4, I think there's still a real chance we sneak into the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, it doesn't matter how you did in the regular season. It's a brand new season. Anyone has a chance to win a championship. We got a championship coach. We got a championship team. Are we going to get there? Are we going to get the trophy? Are we going to show what everything's capable of? I'm not sure, but I know this coach can win it. I know this team can win it. I'm excited to see these last 4 games. So, sorry for talking your ear off so much. Let's get into what Coach Ben has to say, as I'm sure he has a lot to say. I'm not going to ask him any questions this week. Just going to leave the floor to him, and whatever he's got, he can share with you guys. Excited for next week.
All right, let's get 2 things straight about that game. Number 1, UNC is better than Duke. Sorry, that goes without saying. Number 1, that crit did not matter. When I was calcing during the game, I default calculated a timid Dragapult that was Choice Scarf with Shadow Ball. Obviously, he could be modest in the matchup. I was just pulling up specs and changing it from specs to Scarf. So, since he was modest, the crit did not matter. I mean, he needed the lowest roll, like the singular lowest roll on both Shadow Ball and Volt Switch for me not to die to the combination of the two. If he was timid, I lived 75% of the time from Shadow Ball alone after Volt Switch. So that's where it mattered in my head. But since he was modest, it did not matter. He won always based off that result. Second, yes, I could have clicked Encore on the foul play. I could have Calm Mind, and I'm pretty positive that I would have won. I talked about it a lot with Uzi just to learn from my mistakes in the battle. And even though Val still wouldn't have killed Rotom at +1 with Aurasphere due to Chople Berry, the fact is I'm getting a free Calm Mind period against the Alolan Persian, and then I outspeed Rotom no matter what. If that's what he opts to go into, if he wants to switch after the Encore, which if he doesn't switch, I get +2 for free, and that's game, assuming no crits. But yeah, I'm pretty sure if I Encored him into foul play, got 1 free Calm Mind, I 1 always without a crit. I'm pretty sure that's what Uzi and I decided. Misplay on my part. I was getting pretty anxious at the end, if you couldn't tell, so I was just kind of... I didn't take the amount of time I needed to think of that. I was like, okay, everything's in range. Even if it's Scarf, I'm okay. I just didn't think of Chopper Berry on the Rotom for Terra Steel. That was a very good bring on his part. It's not something I prepped for because in the mocks and in just the process of team building, I'm like, Terra Fairy is just better because Terra Steel makes him weak to Valiant. But giving him that Chopper Berry gives him an out, gives him very strong air slash damage, or potentially crippling me with Thunder Wave or something of the sort. So very good prep on his part, and also he was literally the only 2 items to get him out of that situation with Val sweeping. He needed to be Choice Scarf and he needed to be Chopper Berry. If he was just one without the other, he wasn't going to win. So it was just amazing props to Uzi for that prep, and I might have been able to pull it out, but it is what it is. And then also Jugulus, I had a little bit of a brain fart. That was just an actual mistake. I thought the damage I saw in Persian for some reason was Spikes and not the Facade from earlier, so I was worried it was Roselli Berry. And the U-turn just made sure it was 100% in range from a max HP after a Roselli Moonblast hit, so ignore that. But yeah, we're 1-3 now, which it sucks. It does blow, especially considering we have one of, if not the best drafts in the league. I understand that, but we've faced some tough opponents, bro. I'm happy with my win against Nexus. The loss against Joey, I mean, that Olive Branch destroyed me. It is what it is. Still very upset about how I played against Chimpact. I just want a rerun on that entire match because I feel bad for critting the Torn, and I feel more awful for all the terrible plays I made that game. So that's definitely one where I wish I could have had a win. And then this one, it was great. It was down to the wire. I definitely wish I could put my head on straight right towards the end there, but it's alright. Uzi was still a terrifying opponent, and his prep proved to save him there at the end, so not going to discredit him at all for that one. So ideally, we could be out of here 2-2. Just know the SPL is a lot harder, if you couldn't tell already, than it was in the GBA. So we really can still pull through. We can still make playoffs. We can make playoffs with 4-4, potentially even 3-5, I think Joey said. Realistically, we're aiming for 4-4. So hopefully no more than one more loss this season. Ideally, I would like to win out, of course, and go 5-3. So that's what we're going to do starting next week when we bounce back against Kyle A in week 5. So look forward to that.